Morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. I'm Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Krysan. TK joining us from Court Street Cafe this morning over in Port Allen. Don't forget, West Baton Rouge Restaurant Week is this week or coming up, July 11th through 16th. So check that out today on Sports Shorts. We're going to talk. It wasn't just fireworks on Monday for 4th of July, as everybody had a lot of great fireworks shows to watch all around the country. But it was also fireworks for LSU football. TK will tell us about all of that. Also, Live Golf. Maybe there were some fireworks over in Portland, but the world will never know because everybody's doing a great job of keeping the info from not being on mainstream TV, not being on the news, all that sort of thing. But Live Golf had its first U.S. Event. Brandon Grace, a South African, took home a $4 million check. Dustin Johnson's team, which includes Baton Rouge's own Patrick Reed, they were the winning team. Which that's a neat, unique concept. Every golfer, there's 4 golfers on a team, so everybody is paired on a team, and the team that actually wins the event gets $750,000 to split 4 ways, in addition to the individual prizes. Brittany Griner sends a message from Russia to the president, saying she's terrified, concerned she's going to be in Russia for the rest of her life, and wants some help. We'll get into that. Tiger Woods back on the golf course. He is getting ready for St. Andrews, the old course at St. Andrews next week for the British Open. Didn't do well in his first round over in Ireland. Shot a 5 over 77 in an event that actually wraps up today. And that was in his first round. The Baton Rouge Rougarou have won 3 in a row, folks. 3 in a row. They're off for 3 days for a little 4th of July break. They had the All-Star game over on Sunday night in Texas with a couple players represented. Lane Hutchinson finished second, the former Baton Rouge Community College player who's headed elsewhere. He took home second in the home run derby. So the Rougarou back in action after a long road trip. They'll be back home on July 12th for a long 13 games between July 12th and July 31st. So mark your calendar. Go to brrougarou.com for that. With the old course, St. Andrews coming up next week, I've got a story from my one and only time playing over in St. Andrews, so we'll get into that. Happy 4th of July, belated to everybody. Hope everybody had a safe one. Didn't blow any fingers off with that Roman candle. If you could afford to shoot Roman candles this year, Tommy, as firework prices were doubled and tripled in some cases.
Well, I didn't do the fireworks thing, but I spent the whole day Sunday with my entire family, son, daughter, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, all the grandkids, and going to have another grandkid in a couple of weeks. So I had a fun family day, a lot of food from Tremonti's, as you might have guessed, and had a great day at the pool at my daughter's house, and it was really, really fun day for my family.
I did something for the very first time in my life on Sunday. It was my first day off in about a month and a half. And I went on the Tickfaw River. Believe it or not, never have done that in my life. Wound up going to Sunbuns over there by Middendorf's, right over in by Lake Manchac. Also went to what's the famous bar? Prop Stop. Chase Tyler Band was playing over at Pop Stop. They're fantastic. Sunbuns had Last Call, which is a great band as well. So I got to listen to some good live music. Had a great boat ride, and then went over on the sandbar, one of the sandbars, and chilled out over there for a little bit. So, first time I'd ever done that in my life, which is crazy.
Well, you definitely deserved a break. You've been very, very busy, as everybody knows. But, yeah, I've done that routine. It's been a few years, but it's worth doing once or twice in your life. And it's a different change of pace. But a lot of boats out on the water. I know they had another bad accident over there somewhere. So, glad you're okay, but glad you had a fun time. Yeah, that Sunbuns Prop Stop run, that can be fun. Usually quite a few females there.
Yeah, wasn't bad viewing. Next year I'll be more of a my brother's building a big old nice house on in New Roads over on False River, which is a lake. But anyway, I'll actually be spending a lot more time over there now that he's going to have a place over there.
That sounds good. I got to make sure Gus has got my number.
That's right. All right, so explain this. Fireworks around the country celebrating the 4th of July, but for LSU, it wasn't an off day.
Well, Ronnie, so much of the college football talk is about the conference realignment and, the announcements from Texas and Oklahoma to USC and UCLA, now the wild card Notre Dame. So a whole lot on that. And now even servicing what will it do to March Madness, the big basketball tournament. But then amongst all that, LSU football coaching staff been working very hard on the recruiting trail. They picked up 3 verbal commitments: a cornerback out of Rummel down in Metairie, Louisiana, a couple of edge rushers, as Chance says in his comment, it's raining defensive linemen at LSU. No question about that. And a couple, it went nuts all over social media yesterday. And then a couple of the recruiting people who rank classes, they moved LSU from like number 9 to number 3 based on these verbal commitments. There was a lot of coverage on that, a lot of social media. So there was fireworks from the LSU football office. They weren't blowing up firecrackers. They were getting verbal commitments.
The thing about the verbal commitments is there always were a little bit shaky because let's face it, they're verbal commitments. That doesn't really mean that other teams are going to stop recruiting him. It all comes down to will a player keep taking phone calls or not. I think verbal commitments nowadays are more shaky than they were before, because before, a lot of the hay was in the barn on this recruiting stuff and they didn't make a decision. Now, hey, if a booster decides he wants to put up an NIL offer big time on the table last minute, it's kind of like in baseball, unlike football or basketball. Football or basketball, you either give a player a full scholarship or he's a walk-on. There's no in between. In baseball, it's a business negotiation, which makes it so oogie, right? Jay Johnson's talking to a shortstop. He really likes him. He's trying to get him for 40% scholarship. The kid's trying to get as much scholarship as he can. He's saying, hey, I want to come to LSU, but Mississippi State's giving me 80%, and I'm an out-of-state kid, and it costs about the same. But they're, I'm going to pay less money to go there. And so it's literally a negotiation. So imagine if you are, let's just, for the sake of the conversation, say Auburn, and you've got your NIL pot of money, whatever that number is, you've got your pot, and you set aside a portion of that pot because you want to go after that star wide receiver from Mississippi, and you're going hard for that guy, and you don't get him. Well, that money now frees up, and now you have that money for a last minute. Let me go after the second guy on my board. So what I mean by that is that let's say an NIL offer comes in for any of these players that LSU got a verbal commitment from yesterday, one of those defensive ends. And LSU's got their strong NIL offer. Other schools have done their NIL offer. The kid really likes LSU, whatever the case may be. And he comes to LSU. He says he's coming to LSU. But before he signs, maybe Auburn comes in there and says, hey, all of a sudden now we've got a lot more NIL money to spend on you because we didn't get the other guy that we wanted, although they'll never tell the kid that. It'll just all of a sudden they'll blow him out the water at the last minute, and it's legal to do that. So I always thought that verbal commitments were a little bit shaky before, and we probably saw over the course of history in the last 5-6 years that probably, I don't know, you think this is fair? 20% of all verbal commitments change their mind at some point? You think that's about a fair number, or is it less than that in the last 5 years?
As you say it, I think about it, and 20, it could be 25%, but I don't think more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like 20 kids say they're coming, and obviously 20% of that number is 4. So 4 of the 20 kids would flip between the verbal commitment and signing day. And to me, that feels like that's pretty accurate.
The other thing is if they don't flip, they decommit. Like
they decommit.
Decommitting my verbal to LSU, and they don't necessarily announce where they're going. But yeah. So no, I'd say 20, maybe even 25%. If you think of a 25-man class, did 5 guys flip and change?
So that said, Tommy, I think that number is not going to go down. If anything, it's going to go up because now they've made these commitments early in advance. And other teams can figure out what kind of monies they have in their NIL pot, and they might be able to come in there at the 10th, 11th hour and blow away a recruit with the money to where he's like, man, I'd love to come to LSU, but I just can't turn down this family life-changing money from a family.
Ronnie, it reminds me of the story when Urban Meyer first got to Ohio State. there was an unwritten rule in the Big Ten that if a guy verbally committed, you stopped recruiting him. You know, where the kid said, "Hey, I'm going to Wisconsin." Well, the other schools kind of politely said, "Okay." Urban Meyer got that, and he's like, "The hell with that rule. We
Right.
don't. That ain't how we do it." And of course, one of the many things that he was involved with that's controversial. But anyway, Chance says he's hoping Brian Kelly knows how to keep national recruits happy. I would agree with Chance that he did that at Notre Dame. So let's see if he can keep doing it at LSU. And he had tougher. It was tougher for him to recruit at Notre Dame than LSU based on the admissions to the university, among other things.
Well, it's great for LSU, and now LSU's ranking has moved up, as you mentioned, to 3 in one of the polls. Obviously, it'll be volatile depending on how the other recruits shake out with the other teams, but still, you rather see them signing guys than not. And Brian Kelly doing a great job, not sleeping on a July 4th. The Live Golf Tour, Tommy. Brandon Grace. Many people have never heard of him. He won $4 million. He's from South Africa. Brandon Grace won more money and one win in the Live Tour than he has all year on the PGA Tour. What's your takeaway from everything you've read and heard from the first ever Live event in Portland, Oregon this weekend?
Well, it's all about the money. Brandon Grace, tops his career earnings with 3 rounds of golf. I mean, think about that. So, with all that being said, I mean, Live Golf, and they're going to change the name. They just haven't announced when and what. But it's here to stay, I think, because of the money they have. And now you got, the DP Golf, which is the European Tour. Their hair is on fire. Obviously, the PGA has, definitely recognized the fact that they're here to stay by a lot of the things they're doing, changing purses and events and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's here to stay. And it's going to be a good time to be a lawyer in the world of golf. There's so many lawsuits that are already flying around, and there's going to be a bunch more. And again, it's all about the money, and Live Golf has got it, and the PGA Tour and the DP Tour don't. British Open next week. You back it up to this week, the Scottish Open, where I watched Tiger Woods hit a few shots the other day. But you back that up, and a couple of golfers were told they couldn't play in the Scottish Open because they were on the Live Tour. They went to court, got a stay against that order. Ian Poulter and one other guy were allowed to play. So believe me, the lawyers are active.
Patrick Reed, Brandon Grace finished first. Carlos Ortiz finished second. Brandon Grace was minus 13. Ortiz minus 11. Patrick Reed and Dustin Johnson both tied for third in the event. So those are household names. Dustin Johnson was tied for the lead after 2. Bryson DeChambeau finished 10th as well. So, and they had another sign. Who was the golfer that I said that they just signed Saturday to the Live Tour? There was another, I think a British golfer that they just signed to the Live Tour on Saturday. I'll get you his name here in just a minute. The Live Tour will be off until the end of July. July 29th through 31st is when they play again. That'll be at one of the Trump courses over in Scotland or England, I believe. The St. Andrews is where it's going to be interesting to see. Once again, there's a major going on this week. There's a number of Live golfers that are playing in the Open, the British Open. Will they like when they played the event a few weeks ago, will they not talk about the Live Tour? Will the reporters not ask about the Live Tour? How will they handle that? It's going to be interesting to see. But
Ronnie, it was Paul Casey that switched.
Paul Casey. Right.
Yeah, so he switched over, said he was joining the Live Tour. I'm sure he got an amount of money that made him real happy. So, that again, that's all part of it.
Well, Paul Casey's a guy who has been around a long time. Better Golf was behind him, and it seems like that seems to be a little bit of the theme. But people go to these events, not necessarily to always see the old players, right? Like people don't necessarily go to PGA Tour events or whatever to see old players. Sometimes they go to see young players as well. But you got to have that mix, Tommy. It can't just be, all up and comers. It's got to be guys that are proven.
Yeah, you got to have marquee names, as they say, names that are going to attract crowds. And the tournament down in Avondale and right outside of New Orleans. I mean, if you didn't have any of the top 50 golfers in it, I mean, you're not going to sell as many tickets. That's just a fact. That's just the way it goes. So, we'll have to see how this will all unfold going forward. I think a key thing is the Masters tournament, which is not a PGA Tour event. They've made no statement as of yet. And obviously, they're very powerful in the world of golf, and it is the Masters. But, golf fans, put your seatbelt on. Going to be some wild and crazy stuff going forward.
All right, so the old course in St. Andrews is where the British Open is going to be played this coming week, and I had the fortune of playing that course 5 years ago now, I guess it might be. We went over there with a group of 16, and it was a trip of a lifetime. We played eight different courses in 6 days or something like that. That part I hated. It was eight rounds in 6 days, and we walked them all, folks. When you go over to Scotland and Ireland, there's no carts. Now, they'll allow you to take a cart if you've got a medical exemption and you get a letter, and they only have a few carts. So it's not like you can just show up. You got to send over the request in advance and, send over if you're a handicapped person or if you've had surgery and you got a bad knee or whatever the case may be. But you also look like an ass when you're with a group of 16 guys, and if you're in a cart and you're not really, really, really hurting, or have some sort of reason to be in that cart. You can't just do it because, man, I'm tired. I'd rather take a cart while everybody else is walking. So it's a catch-22. But I got the chance to play the old course where they're going to play the British Open this weekend. And Tommy, I got to tell you, it was a feeling I had never felt on a golf course before. It was almost a spiritual type thing. And I think part of that was the fact that, when you go to, St. Andrews, and it's particularly on that course and the way the downtown is and everything, you just feel the history. I mean, it's literally the home of golf. It's where the game was created. And you just feel the centuries of history that's there. For me, it was special. My dad had played St. Andrews, but a few years earlier, and that was such a giant thing for his life. And he's got the pictures and the frame scorecard and all that. And to know that he was so happy for me to get to play that course, that made it even more special. But I mean, I'm telling you, man, I got chill bumps standing on that tee box. You've got about 100 people watching because tourists are just kind of there taking it in. I had a giant group of 16 guys. We had 4 different foursomes. Everybody had their own caddy. So you got all these caddies. You got the starters. I mean, it was 150 people watching you hit a golf shot, which as laymen's we don't get very ever in our life. So that was nerve-wracking in itself. But I'm telling you, it is a trip of a lifetime. It's worth it for somebody to, if you're an avid golfer, to save up and go do that.
Yeah, no, I've got some friends that have done that and played over there. It's quite the experience. One real quick story, a good friend of mine got to play Royal Birkdale, which is one in the rotation for the British Open. And he told me he literally got on the first tee and he looked at the caddy and said, "Which way do we go?" Because, you get on any golf course in America, you're on the first tee, where you got to hit it or you're supposed to hit it. And he's like, he didn't know if he was going left, right, behind him, in front of him. That's how different it was. But I remember you talking about your trip to St. Andrews. And, I'm like you. That would get me because of the history, and the whole thing. And then, of course, the relationship that your dad had played there and he was happy that you played there. I mean, I can understand your emotion.
It's really cool. The caddy told me when I stood on the first tee box, and it is weird because, everybody knows that 1 and 18 are basically, facing each other, going, literally if you hit it left, you're on the 18th fairway. If you hit it left off the 18th tee box, you're on the number 1 fairway. And, it is really one of those courses that there's a lot of extra room. And the caddy told me on the way out on 1 through 9, he said, "Hey, we got all of Scotland to the left and the ocean to the right. So hit it left." And I did.
I got a question for you. Okay. I got a very important question for you. Where or how? What was the result of your first tee shot with 150 people on the box?
Probably arguably my best shot of the day.
Okay. I mean, well, hey, I'm impressed.
Impressed. I mean, it was about a 260-yard drive right down the middle.
They give you the golf clap? They give you the little
Yeah,
golf
oh
clap.
yeah. But let me tell you something. I thought there was a chance I was going to swing and miss. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds a nut, and I was able to pipe it right down the middle. Good to see old Doug Thompson finding his way on the Facebook. I see. Look at that. Look
Yeah,
at that. He
I
understands
wonder
how to
who
hit the
taught him
button.
how to do that. Can we find that out?
Go ahead and like and share it, Dougie. Let's see how much of a team player you are. Byron Painter, old center fielder. My son and I went in 2019, trip of a lifetime. I get it, Byron. No doubt about it. And there's some other great courses around there as well. I mean, that's the great thing. St. Andrews, you go play the old course. They've got, within a 45-minute drive, you're playing some of the greatest courses in the world. So, and Chance, it's not that I love me some live tour, but I love some freedom to do whatever you want. I think Chance, people, golfers and all should be able to do whatever they want. And I love the fight that's going on right now between the PGA and the Live Tour, because I think at the end of the day, the Live Tour is going to win out if it's truly willing to keep putting its hands in its pockets and spending that money. And it's got so much more than PGA. I think you're going to see more and more golfers going to the Live Tour. And so I look forward to watching that over the next year or two. No question about it. Tiger Woods, we'll see how he does. He'll be you'll be reading all about him. He'll be at the old course. I think that's a course that'll bode him well. Wanted to get this for you. Big trade, and I know you're not a big NBA guy, Tommy, but Rudy Gobert, the trade by Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If y'all, this happened late last week. Rudy Gobert, considered arguably the best defensive big man in the league, is now traded to Minnesota. And now with Karl Anthony Towns and what he can do as a big man offensively, you put a Rudy Gobert in there at the 5 guarding the rim. You let Towns do his thing as one of the best post players at the 4. And then you got all those good young wing players. All of a sudden, Minnesota, even though they gave up a ton, 4 first-rounders and a bunch of players that they had to throw in for the salary cap, this is going to be a game changer for Minnesota, and I think puts them as a team, to battle for the upper tier in the West. And I've always been a Rudy Gobert fan. I think he plays fantastic defense. Obviously, he's most famous now for being the first COVID athlete really in the world, I think, at the time. And shut down basketball once Rudy Gobert got it.
Yeah, well, and what it makes me notice is obviously everybody's very excited about what the Pelicans might do next year. Well, they're in the Western Conference, and now Gobert, Minnesota, obviously still in the Western Conference. So, Zion got that max contract, $231 million, 5 years. Happy to be in New Orleans. So, Pelicans fans are going to be excited. They expecting really good things next year, especially if Zion can stay healthy and everybody else stay healthy. So, so Gobert going to Minnesota, I mean, you're going to get to see him play in New Orleans.
Do you think that I'm glad that Zion signed the deal, because that means he put his pen where his mouth was. A few weeks ago when he did a press conference the day after the season ends, he said, I can't sign a extension quick enough. We kind of thought it was lip service. I did. I thought it was a little bit of lip service because I didn't think the Pelicans would necessarily commit to him long-term based off of what's already happened. But clearly behind the scenes, he's a different guy. They're seeing a different guy, and they rewarded him with such. He didn't get the max, but he got $200-something million guaranteed.
Well, and, Chris Paul left. Anthony Davis left. We all know that. Zion is now locked in. He's not going to go. And I remember when they first got him, somebody said, he'll be here 3 years and he'll be gone, regardless of whether he's hurt, injured or not. They said, it could be another stepping stone like Chris Paul and Anthony Davis. Well, you know what? It's not. So maybe this is what, the beginning of a run by the Pelicans. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Championship this year, but maybe it puts them in the contention of the Western Conference, a top couple teams for the next bunch of years. And, and obviously that'd be great for New Orleans and the NBA fans in Louisiana.
I'm super happy that Zion is in. It also allows them to have trade bait if they want to. Kevin Durant is out there. There's some conversation that the Pelicans is one of the top 5 Kevin Durant destination possibilities. Who knows? I think if you got the chance to get Kevin Durant, it's worth exploring, no matter how much we like this the camaraderie of this team and the story of the rookies, and they made it into the playoffs in the back door. Hey, you get a chance to get a top 5 player in the world who's got plenty more game left to him. You investigate all those opportunities. And so now Pelicans are sitting there with a full deck and they can do whatever they want. And that's exciting. Chance saying UFC versus boxing comparison. I think he's talking about PGA versus Live. Not the same thing. I mean, UFC and boxing, kind of two different sports. But unless you want to look at it like PGA is boxing and it's the old guard and it's going to start to fade out, and UFC is the new guard and it's going to become the thing. I mean, look at UFC; it's way bigger than boxing these days.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a good comparison because it's not like you have 10 marquee names boxing that are running the UFC.
Yeah.
Marquee names is in quotes there, but so no, it's not exactly. I understand what he's trying to compare, but I think it is a little bit different. I agree with you, Ronnie.
The Brittany Griner story, Tommy, over in Russia where she is jailed. She's arguably, top 5 basketball player in the world. And she's over there, unfortunately, in Russia during a time where relations are back to the Cold War, where we're literally at war with them as we're back in, countries that are at war with them. Obviously, there's other Americans that are jailed, just not her. And it's a terrible story. She reached out. It got a lot of news. We saw pictures of it for the first time going into court. She made a face to the camera, basically like a help. And she got a letter to the president saying, "Hey, please don't forget about me," which of course they haven't. It's just at this point in time, I don't know that there's anything the United States can do other than a prisoner swap. And that's what's expected, is that at some point there's going to be some sort of prisoner swap where we'll trade Russian prisoners for American prisoners. But does this remind me, you're a little older than I and have a few more years under you. Is there any other athletic story like this in the past that you can think of where an athlete was held in jail?
Not necessarily an athlete. There have obviously been Americans that have been detained overseas for whatever the reason. Well, I read some excerpts from her letter to the president. I'm quite sure the president has absolutely no idea who she is. But in the letter, she put, "I voted for you. Please help. Come on, stop." Hey, one way to have avoided this was don't break the laws of the country that you're in. She broke the law. That has consequences. Now, they're talking about she could be sentenced to 10 years over there. And like no parole, no like early release if you behave, all that. So I back it up to don't break the law. Or if you do break the law and you get caught, you're going to have to pay the consequences just like anybody else. It doesn't matter that you're a women's basketball player. By the way, she played for Kim Mulkey at Baylor. But anyway, so, but if apparently she's not being tortured or treated unfairly or whatever, but it's a crazy story. But I think there's lots of people in her boat who have broke laws on other countries, not just Russia, and you got to pay the price.
Yeah, unfortunately, the laws of other countries are not the same as far as the length of time. Every country's different. Certain things offend people differently than others, and clearly Russia's going to take it out on Griner. And right now, this is just a bad time. I don't know that there's anything the United States can do other than a prisoner swap, and clearly Russia's going to want the better end of that deal. I don't. She didn't say that, James.
Yeah, she did.
She said she missed a lot of things except the freedoms of America.
Yeah, because she's claiming it's not freedom because she's in jail. She's misguided. I don't know if she gives any advice. She does have attorneys over there, but I don't know.
Do you think she wrote that letter, or someone else wrote that letter for her?
It appeared that she did. I read excerpts. They put excerpts of it out, like a couple of paragraphs. I don't think that was the entire letter. But again, Ronnie, about 10, 12 years ago, I was in Aruba for a week, and they had like at the resort, you could go look at the list of rules and the list of things that might be different from from the USA, and they highly recommended you pay attention to them, And I'm sure, if you're going to go to Russia to play basketball and make money, which she did, you might want to say, okay, what's the do's and the don'ts here? Because I want to be able to go home when I'm finished.
Yeah, I guess bringing your vape pens and stuff is not one of the do's.
Well, it had
But I
hashish
still,
in it. It's not. It's the difference between having hashish, which is a strong flower,
yeah, and that's
versus
and they
weed. It wasn't
see
weed.
Byron, Americans get used to freedom and certain levels of mercy from misdemeanors versus other countries. You're right. I mean, like, remember, like over in the Middle East and stuff, there was, if you stole, they chopped off your hands. It's back in the day. I mean, like they don't, obviously they don't do that in the United States. So yeah, we get used to just getting your hand slapped, and sometimes it literally costs you your hands. All right, so all right, TK, we're gonna roll out. We'll be back on Wednesday morning for more Sports Shorts
Tomorrow.
Daily. So it's tomorrow. My goodness, I'm thinking
Yeah,
today.
everybody thought yesterday was Sunday.
Yeah.
I saw all kind of posts about that. But hey, keep in mind, next week, July 11 to 16, is West Baton Rouge Restaurant Week. Obviously, Court Street Cafe will participate. Connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. Get all the details, the specials, the new daiquiri machines behind me. West Baton Rouge Restaurant Week, July 11 to 16. And contact Court Street for more information, or stop by Court Street, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Open 6 days a week, not open on Sunday. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. You'll be glad you did.
All right. Hope everybody has a good one. We'll see you tomorrow morning for more Sports Shorts Daily. Until then, roll on. Thanks to LeBear's Casino for being a great sponsor. Like and share, everybody.